strong values and strong opinions. The Mike Broomhead Show. KTAR News, 92.3 FM, and the KTAR News app.
Hey, thanks so much for being here. Elections have been in the spotlight again here in Arizona and Maricopa County, of course. The elections have been certified, and joining us right now to take and get a recap of all of it, Maricopa County Recorder Stephen Richer. Stephen, welcome back.
Thanks so much for having me, Mike.
Let's start with Election Day and what's happened since Election Day. Have you learned anything new about the issues that happened on Election Day? And if not, how long do you think it'll be before the county starts getting some answers as to what happened?
The Board of Supervisors has promised to look into this. I know that they are enlisting a third party to come in, do an independent analysis, take a look at what the problems were, take a look at the response. I don't know the time frame for that, but I have every confidence that they are going to take that seriously and get us all the answers and all the corrections that are absolutely needed. And they have already said that that can't happen again. And they've been wonderful partners in election administration. And I'm very confident in them.
And let's make the distinction that the early voting is your area of that's your job, and Election Day,
Correct.
The County Board of Supervisors, that's their job.
Correct, and that's the same for all 15 counties.
Yep, and so I just want to make sure we made the distinction. I'm just asking you about this because obviously you're connected to all of this. Knowing what you know, seeing what you've seen in this election and the certification, and in spite of the issues, are you confident that Maricopa County got it right?
Yes. I'm confident that the results were tabulated accurately and that the voter registration database was in great shape and the best shape that it's been in a while. And so, we're blessed, I guess, to be doing a full recount, and I'm confident that that full recount will very, 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 very closely mirror the results as they were originally produced.
There have been some items that were sent to the Lake campaign recently, and I know that was through the Board of Supervisors, but what was some of the things that were sent to the Lake campaign, and what are you expecting to come of all this?
Look, post-election litigation is an important and healthy part of the process, and the Lake campaign, if it feels that it has been in any way wrong or it has had its electoral chances unlawfully impinged, then it should file lawsuits, and those will be adjudicated in, and we should accept the results of the court's ruling, and that can be appealed to the Supreme Court. But then after that, it's done. And that's the process as set out by the law. And as somebody who firmly believes in the rule of law, we should respect the rule of law.
All right, so let's shift. The governor came out with a statement backing something that I had talked about on the show and a number of people have talked about to make it a little bit quicker in counting votes. And the idea that the governor floated, and I had even mentioned on the show as well, is that allowing earlies or the late earlies, the people that show up with early ballots on Election Day, instead of dropping them off to be verified later, that they could actually be verified on site and put into tabulation machines and counted immediately. Is that something that you back?
So what do they say the definition of insanity is? Is that if you keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results? Well, we're getting dangerously close to being categorized as Arizona because we have the same system. We haven't changed the system materially since 1992, and yet after every single election, we say we want results faster. And that, I think, is true across the board, and this doesn't make you, an election conspiracy theorist or anything of the like. It's just say, we want results faster. And that's, and it's hurting, unfortunately, Arizona's national reputation when so many people are interested in the outcomes of Arizona's races and they have to wait. And we know why that is. You know why that is. The governor knows why that is. It's because of these early ballots that are returned on Election Day. And so I think that we should simply do what Florida does and simply ask that early ballots be returned early. And so I'm proposing that all early ballots have to be returned by 5 p.m. on Saturday. Then we could have a much higher percentage of results available on election night, and we would know who has won the vast majority of those contests.
A couple of other things that you floated, and I was interested in your tweet yesterday, allowing counties to have 2 days of in-person Election Day voting with on-site tabulation. Why? Can you break down for us some of these other ideas you've had to expedite the counting of the votes?
And these are all, none of this is, me inventing new novel ideas. I'm just looking at what other states do and what people have pointed to, Georgia to Florida. And so one of the things that they do is they allow for tabulation on site, not just Election Day, as we have it here in Arizona, but the Monday before or multiple days before. And this has two benefits. One, people who come in early, they can they can feed their ballot through the tabulation machine even before Election Day, and a lot of people like that. Two, it means that we don't get that ballot back in an envelope because it's currently governed by early voting law. So if you show up in person on Monday, that's coming back to us in a ballot in an envelope that we still have to signature verify. And three, the third benefit, to add another one, is it means that the Board of Supervisors will be helped out in that Tuesday won't be the only day in which they can run the tabulators at the voting location, so nothing's brand new on Election Day, which will hopefully help for a smoother process moving forward.
So is this something that you're going to take to the legislature and try to get passed
Absolutely.
legislatively? And how quickly will that happen?
I'm going to be writing these up over the next weeks. I'm going to have it ready for them at the beginning of the new year. I'm fully believe that elections can and should be improved, and an important part of that process is changing the laws, because otherwise, as I said, if we're going to continue to model our election system off of California, Washington, Oregon, and not Florida, then we're going to have results at the speed of California, Oregon, Washington, which is what we've had over the last 30 years. But I'm increasingly hearing from people who say, even if it means I can't drop off my early ballot on Election Day, we want results faster. And I think that would also do a lot for the confidence in the system.
Do you think it would be difficult for the county or for your office to implement these changes if they're passed?
Well, the simplest changes, as I mentioned, it's clean. It would make our lives actually even easier if early ballots were dropped off on Election Day. Now, to the governor's proposal, I think he's absolutely right in putting his finger on the problem of late early ballots. But from a logistics and operational standpoint, that one would be a lot harder because you would have to be running concurrent elections essentially out of the same voting locations, where you would have to have two different lines, two different check-in systems, two different tabulation machines. And so I worry that would add in more logistical challenges than would be worthwhile. And for that reason, no jurisdiction in the United States currently does that. But I wholeheartedly agree with the governor's end goal, and I agree with his assessment of the problem. We cannot be solving this problem without talking about those late early ballots.
What do you think, after being in this job now for a while and running this election and watching what we do and how we do it, where do you think are our weaknesses in the laws? What is the biggest weakness in Arizona election law? What needs to change?
I think it's exactly this. The number one, both in the August primary and the November general election, more than anything else related to election administration, the number one issue we heard about is we want to know the results faster. And that's only going to become more acute as Arizona races continue to be close, because maybe in the past, for instance, if you go to 2018, Governor Ducey's race, you could call that on election night when we had 65, 70, 75% of the results in. And we're still getting 65, 70, 75, 80% of the results available on election night. But races are less and less Governor Ducey's 2018 reelection campaign and more McSally versus Sinema on 2018, which was decided by less than 3%. And when it's decided by less than 3%, then every single vote starts to count, and people don't want that process dragged out. And I am very sympathetic to that. And that doesn't mean that, you believe that the election was stolen or anything like that. That just means that we don't want to wait. And it's, and that's a perfectly legitimate wish.
Stephen, I always appreciate the time, and I look forward to talking to you again.
Thanks, Mike. Let's do this, and let's make it better for all Arizonans.
Amen. Thanks, Stephen. That's Stephen Richer, the county recorder of Maricopa County, with ideas of how to expedite counting votes, how to get it done faster, accurate, but faster, and some really good ideas. So just wanted to let him float those out there, and he will be taking them to the legislature.